got a job volunteering early on after I was married on the Humphrey campaign. And I got involved in politics, loved it. Never did a lot of traveling because I had young children at home. But I got involved and I would start running campaigns or being key in campaigns from Washington until I could travel. And then later on I began doing international work and helping countries that were emerging democracies have free and fair elections. I loved it. I liked what I was doing. I liked the people I was working with. It was just what I wanted to do. I did presidential campaigns, then I opened a consulting business and did, gubernatorial, Senate, congressional campaigns all over the country. And then, as I said, I started doing international stuff. It made a difference because I would go to countries where I wasn't somebody looking at them as if they were in a zoo. I was part of going into those countries, part of something that was going to make a difference in their lives. I, of course, went entirely through the D.C. public school system. As I said, it wasn't until my senior year that we discovered that Washington, the end of my junior year, that Washington had a legally segregated public school system, and it wasn't integrated. So I went through until the end of my senior year. So I went through a completely segregated public school system in the nation's capital. Then I went to Smith College, where I majored in politics, or what they called it, government. My parents were both journalists, and that was the world I had grown up in and the world that I liked. I worked in a number of countries, but I spent several months in Bosnia when it became an independent country broken out from Yugoslavia. And I helped write the election laws, organized the first election, went back there often to work and continue to organize elections in Bosnia, which is now a very good democracy. And by the way, adopted 2 Bosnian dogs and brought them back home too. One of them still is part of my life. Being included in and welcomed into both in the United States and overseas as somebody they trusted. They felt it was about them, it wasn't about me. And I helped start elections, whether it was as I said, was one of the things I liked the most was running all of the anti-David Duke campaigns in Louisiana. But helping write campaigns all over the United States and then all over the world. I worked on the presidential campaigns of Humphrey, Scoop Jackson, Birch Bayh, and Teddy Kennedy. And each of those certainly was an inspiration and part of what my parents were also. They were both journalists, and they very much encouraged me to go in the direction that would fulfill my wants, my needs, and what I cared most about. Who will I be leaving my legacy for? Well, I guess the most legacy I leave is to my oldest son is deceased, but to my son and my daughters-in-law and my grandchildren. But also I love the fact that we were part of the political, when it was pretty much new. I remember volunteering to work on a campaign someplace, 20 years ago, and saying to somebody, I know a little bit about this. I can, if you want my help, I'll be glad to help. And they said, oh no, we have a brochure that was written for the Humphrey campaign about how to do it. We don't need help. Of course, I wrote that brochure. So, yeah, it was being very much a part of what I'm doing and its impact on the world as it came along. It's not about you, it's about the people you're working for. Always keep that in mind and look at what you can do that will help make them meet more what they need to make their lives successful and important. Well, my parents, of course, inspired me because they were journalists. So I grew up on the edges of the political world because they were covering the political world. They were journalists in Washington. And then, of course, my husband, who was also involved in politics, encouraged me to be and made it possible for me to continue to do what I wanted to do until I retired. Fulfilling. What I did meant a lot to me, and it meant something to the people I worked with. They weren't just clients or customers. That we were working together on something that was going to make their lives different and better. I've talked about how what I've done has changed and helped people, both in the United States and around the world, particularly in the former Soviet Union, which was where most of my work has been done overseas. But the other thing is what it's meant to me. I wake up in the morning and I feel good about what I've been doing, and that's very important. I'm proud of it, and it matters.